For 500 years, the world has watched the same silent cycle repeat itself. 5 empires, 5 reserve currencies, 5 global dominations, and every single one collapsed. But here's the part nobody wants to talk about. They all fell for the exact same reason. A single hidden pattern that rewires the rise of nations and guarantees their downfall. Today, every chart, every debt ratio, every geopolitical shift suggests something uncomfortable. The United States might be entering the same final chapter. But before you jump to conclusions, you need to understand what actually happened to the 5 currencies before the dollar. Because once you know the pattern, the ending becomes impossible to ignore. For centuries, global power hasn't belonged to the strongest army, but to whoever controls the world's reserve currency. The currency other nations must use to trade, borrow, and survive. That power has passed from one empire to the next, like a crown. Spain, the Netherlands, France, Britain, and now the United States. Each empire claimed their rise was unique. Each believed they were too advanced, too wealthy, too exceptional to fall. And yet, the charts show all 5 followed an identical timeline. Rise gives peak, gives overconfidence, gives overextension, gives debt explosion, gives decline. This isn't a coincidence. Let's walk through the 500-year patterns step by step. Spain became the first superpower of the modern world after discovering massive silver deposits in the New World. For decades, it controlled over 80% of the world's silver, minting the first true global currency. But that silver was a curse disguised as wealth. More silver meant more money. More money meant inflation, and inflation destroyed Spain's economy from the inside. The empire that dominated the planet for a century collapsed under its own financial weight, proving that a global currency can destroy its creator. The Netherlands built the first modern banking system, stock exchange, and central bank-like institutions. The Dutch guilder became the most trusted money in the world. But the same trust gave them access to cheap borrowing. And cheap borrowing led to something new in history: national leverage. Wars with England spiraled costs out of control. Debt exploded to impossible levels. And as interest payments swallowed the national budget, the Dutch Empire quietly slipped into the shadows. France followed the script perfectly. It built massive armies, colonies, and a financial system that stretched across continents. But then came the twist. France printed money to pay for wars and luxuries, triggering one of the first modern hyperinflations. People burned paper money for heat. Bread cost entire wages. Trust in the currency evaporated, and the monarchy collapsed with it. Britain seemed immune to the mistakes of others. The British pound, backed by gold, became the foundation of global trade. But global dominance is expensive. 2 world wars drained Britain dry, war debt to the US skyrocketed. The empire shrank, the pound lost its throne. Now we reach the present. The US dollar became king after World War II under the Bretton Woods system. Everyone needed dollars. America printed them freely. Debt grew, then became the very engine of the global economy. Today, the United States holds over $34 trillion in debt, a debt-to-GDP ratio above 120%, trillions more in unfunded liabilities, and yearly interest payments larger than the defense budget. The exact same symptoms that signaled the end of every previous empire. The pattern is no longer historical, it's alive right now. Each empire hit a moment when its debt grew faster than its economy. That moment changed everything. Governments had three options: raise taxes, unpopular; cut spending, impossible; print money, inevitable. And every empire chose option. Money printing temporarily fixes the crisis. But long-term, it speeds up the collapse. When the world senses weakness in a reserve currency, it begins the same behavior every time. Countries diversify, foreign demand falls, borrowing becomes more expensive. Printing accelerates to cover the gap. Inflation surges. Confidence dies, the currency falls, and the empire falls with it. Every single time. When a reserve currency collapses, three things happen. Trade structures break because global contracts must be rewritten. Wealth vanishes, especially savings, pensions, and fixed incomes. A new world order emerges usually after a major conflict or economic crisis. Transitions between reserve currencies are violent. They rewrite borders, empires, and entire civilizations. Every empire tried to escape its fate. Spain minted more silver. The Dutch raised taxes. France printed notes. Britain borrowed from the US-America prints and borrows from itself. But none solved the core issue. You cannot sustain a global empire on debt. Printing and belief forever eventually. Confidence runs out. Look at today's numbers. BRICS nations are creating alternative systems. US debt grows by over $1 trillion every 100 days. 65% of global central banks are reducing dollar exposure. China and Russia trade almost completely without dollars. The US prints money faster than any empire in history. This is not a conspiracy. It's a repeating financial cycle, one older than the United States itself. If the dollar follows the pattern, the decline won't happen all at once. It will happen slowly, and then suddenly, just like it did for Spain, just like it did for Britain, just like it always does. 1. Reserve currencies don't last forever. The average lifespan is 80 to 110 years. The US dollar is at year 80.2. Empires fall the moment their debt grows faster than their productivity. America crossed that line decades ago. 3. Every collapsing empire believed it was the exception. We are living through a moment historians will study for centuries, the possible end of the dollar era, and whether the next global currency is digital multipolar or something entirely new. One truth remains: no empire is immune to the pattern. The question is not if, it's when. If you want more breakdowns on money history, global debt cycles, and the hidden flaws inside our financial system, subscribe, stay curious, and join the next episode. Because this story is only just beginning.